Jim, I had this experience a couple days ago, and it's still in my space. I'm still processing it. And what happened was I was on my computer. I'm in Google. I click the link, and up comes this bright red screen with big capital letters and a drop down, and a voice comes on and says, "You must not leave this page or your computer is going to crash and you're going to lose your credit card information and blah, blah, blah. Call this number immediately."
Very serious.
Very serious. And so I just sat there and I looked at it, and I saw clues that indicated to me that it was spam, like it said Windows Help Desk. Well, I have a Mac. And it said the URL it came from was some weird URL.
Planet X.
Planet X or something. So very calmly, I took a screenshot, and then I turned off my computer, and I called the phone number. And it was a transfer, so I could tell it was going to be outsourced. And I get this guy on the phone, and I say, I have this on my screen. This happened, and I think it's a scam. "Oh, it's not a scam," he said. You have to have me help you do this, otherwise you're going to lose all this information. You have to help me, okay? And I said, "No, okay. It will be a one-time fee. Is that okay?"
For a simple $300, I tell you what we're going to do for you.
And I said, "No, that's not okay. Thank you very much." And I hung up, and then I went about my day. But it kept it kept pondering it. And my question was, I'm curious, how does a person agree to be in that situation, and a scamming situation? So what I did is a little while later, I called this guy back up, his company back up, and I said, "I know this is a scam, but I'm really curious about something. Can I ask you a question?" And he said, long pause, he said, "Yes." And I said, "How does it work where someone works for a company that is scamming other people? They're
stealing.
They're lying, and they're taking their money." Long pause. "This isn't a scam." And I said, "Come on, I know it's a scam. I'm just curious. Tell me, how do you work for a company like this that does these things to other people?" He long pause, and then he got really upset, like loud, and he said, "I've never lied in my life." And he hung up. So after all of that, I realized my simple uncharged question helped him think, maybe, or did something where I guess I'm still processing it. And I still don't have the answer. How does someone do that? How does someone do that?
So it's really interesting. I mean, what you did was kind of fascinating in itself as a human study. But it's really a challenge. So in a way, this whole aspect of where we're playing in the universe right now is a transformation. There's a lot of change. Now you could say, well, but people have been stealing and cheating forever, which they have.
Snake oil salesman.
Sure. So one of the things that I'm really consciously aware of is the whole evolving of the internet. And so it creates opportunities in ways that's never been created. And so you take that, but you also take this whole level of kind of the moral compass of the world is moving. And you have situations where people all over the world in countries are impoverished. And so to a great extent, you've got the great capitalistic machine of the last 70 years growing, in competition being one of the factors. Me versus you, me taking advantage of you, me getting ahead. And in that whole process, there's also a backlash to resentment about you taking from me. So I think the combination of things really is people are doing whatever they have to do in order to make money. I'm impoverished, I need, and I begin to see these opportunities. And I think the fact that an opportunity is an opportunity, the question you ask the person is too personal.
Yeah, it made him think about, why am I doing this?
Yeah, and well, it just basically can't answer that question because internally there's that moral compass is always on, and when you avoid it, I'm making money, and it's okay.
It's like that experience we had a few years ago with a web designer. And it was continually developer. It was clear that they were doing things wrong, and we eventually fired them. But then later, the individual who we were working with one-on-one came back and apologized and said, the company I was working for was telling me to do this wrong.
Right, and we were stealing from you. We weren't fixing it. We were not solving the problem. I felt bad about it. I'm calling you to tell you I will fix this for you. Well,
Yeah.
It was well after the fact.
Right.
So that internal guilt is there.
But for him, he got it.
Well, he was guilty
Yeah.
enough to where he couldn't continue to walk around with what he had.
Yeah.
So the real question is, so this is a circumstance of the world that we're living in.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in a significant transition. So, what I've said all along is the world's your mirror. The external is the reflection of the internal. And that whole level of fear and guilt and anxiety and I need is all real, very real. So the question that I think you're really asking, in a way, is a personal question, because we're not going to solve the world's guilty issues or stealing issues. But the real question is, in the context of where we do all this work, where do you lie?
Right. That was my next step.
Where do you steal?
Yeah.
Where do you do something that moral compass basically says, I don't think this is right, but I have to, or I need, or I must, and then there's a rationale. So I think the question that it really is coming to the surface for everybody. Now, does everybody cheat and steal and lie like this? No. But where do you tell the little white lie?
Yeah.
Where do you, just do something that's just off balance? In your reality, that's a ripple. And I can rationalize my own little ripples wherever they are all day long and not pay attention to them and basically say, write them off. But in the context of this shifting transitional phase that we're in, that little ripple is a pebble in your backpack.
Yeah.
And so it's not justifying the pebble or rationalizing, it's a pebble. And it exists, and it's there. And it's like I say a lot of times, people say things or they think something, the thought you just thought about somebody else doesn't just go away when you're done thinking it. Every thought has density and vibration, and every thought goes somewhere. Thoughts just don't go poof and disappear. They go somewhere. And so when you start to make this transition consciously, seriously, intentionally, as many of you do who are listening to these just gentle conversations we have, it's where is it in your backpack that pebble exists? As insignificant as that pebble is, it's many times holding up, it becomes the fulcrum for a whole lot of additional weight that you argue with all day long, but you don't really go to, where's my little pebble? And so this aspect of
Where do you lie?
where do you lie? And it's not about, be perfect, clean up your act and be perfect. It's not about be perfect. It's about cleaning your house.
Well, and it's about being masterful every moment. And instead of just blurting something out, to pause for a minute and evaluate, is this the truth? Is this where I want to go? Is this going to cause a ripple? How is this other person going to receive this?
Well, I'll give you a personal example, and it took years. And not so long ago, it popped up in my reality, which actually this time it really surprised me. And it doesn't make any logical sense, except I can trace it back to 5 years old, taking a candy bar out of a store with my mother. And I just picked it up and wanted the candy bar. Now, that's a little kid. I wasn't stealing.
Yeah.
I was just doing that. But the owner saw it, and my mother got engaged, and all of a sudden it was like, I was really bad. I was stealing. This is really bad. Shame on you. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Well, all of that energy sits in my space. And so this illogical logic or something, I would think about stealing things. And I'd stop and go, I don't steal things. That's not my reality. But that thought would pop up in relationship to circumstances where it's like, well, you could just take that. And I kept realizing that's not even my thought. And that this is important in a way. How many thoughts do you think that you assume are yours? You even argue with them as yours. They're not yours. There's somebody else's thought that's just stuck in there that pops up when you see a candy bar.
Yeah, good example.
And I don't even eat candy bars anymore. So the point is that little piece sat in my space, and it literally haunted me for 30, 40, 50 years. I mean, it's something that would pop up occasionally. And it popped up the other day, and I actually thought to myself, this is really astonishing that there's still a little ripple somewhere in my vibrational field that as much as I've cleaned that out of my space, there was that ripple. So, but I remember with that ripple, it would pop up and I would argue with it. And it took minutes of arguing in my space. So a lot of that so I guess there's two messages here. One is notice the ripples, notice that in your space. But two, consider it's possibly not yours.
Yeah.
And if you could allow it to be not yours, so especially if it's never made sense to you, it's really worthwhile just considering it's not mine, I can let this go. I don't have to keep arguing, it's not me. But as we go through this transition, all of these little events, where they start big, like I'm calling people and stealing their money consciously on the phone, to little, where that 5-year-old experience sits in your space, those little ripples are the fulcrum points of a lot of your transition. I've been watching a number of people that call and ask for questions, ask things, and I help them, but I just kind of watch their transition through some of their ripples as a curiosity.
Yeah.
And what I'm watching is they are really very fine people, and here and there these little stuck points.
Pebbles.
And yet many times in one person's case I've said it 4 times. Ever notice such and such? Oh yeah, I know about that. Gone. As soon as it's said, it's gone. Now, are they in denial? No. Yes and no. Are they intentionally avoiding? No, it's unconscious. So what you're talking about really has some value here. It's where is that ripple in your space? And recognize, as insignificant as this, as much as, well, this isn't me, I don't know why I have that thought, it's in your backpack. And it may be the single little tiny piece that prevents you from taking the one step that allows you to begin to have that expansion in your awareness. Does that make sense
absolutely.
to your
It's
question?
Good. Where do I lie?
So
Look at it for myself.
Where do I steal candy bars?
Right.
And so one thing also you might find that question is, well, where do you steal candy bars? It's like, well, how dare you? That's really offensive. Oh, what's the picture behind the picture? So if you have an emotional charge to your own thought or to a conversation, no problem. Just stop and examine it, put it in a rose in that simple tool that we teach, and get about your business.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, good. That's a good conversation. Okay, till next time.